statue in human form. The humanity of a goy, right? The humanity of a goy is nothing more than the physical human form, which does set himself apart from the animals. Speaking about my golden retriever barking in the background, right? So of course the physical human form makes all humanity different than animals, but it doesn't make humanity divine like the Jewish people are divine. The Jewish people have an added spiritual tzelem. So that's why if a guy kills his fellow guy, he's chayiv misa, he gets the death penalty, right? But if he kills an animal, he does not get the death penalty, right? Because of course they're different than animals, but it's a physical difference. It's not a qualitative, spiritual difference that makes them, divine. They're human as opposed to animal, right? They have a tselem elokim relative to an animal because of the special physical human form. But it's a physical human form that sets them apart from animals and makes them something else, something better than an animal, right? But they don't have the divine spiritual form, the divine tselem elokim that we have. So that's why he sees the physical statue as a physical form. That's very interesting. The statue as a physical human form, I mean to say. And that their humanity is a physical thing relative to our humanity, which is a spiritual thing. Their humanity sets themselves apart from animal, right? It's a physical state that makes them better than an animal, just like an animal is better than a vegetable, and a vegetable is better than a mineral, right? It makes them a different species, right? But it doesn't make them spiritual like we are spiritual, right? And that's reflected that this statue was in human form. It's just a physical form. There's no soul there. And as a matter of fact, I think we mentioned it, the Rambam and the Kuzri both undoubtedly inspired by the vision of Nebuchadnezzar. He sees the Goyim, all as a humanoid statue. He says there's between a Jew and a Goy. A guy is, the nations of the world and the Jewish people, says the Kuzari. Nations of the world are like a statue, very finely chiseled in human form, but it has no soul, as opposed to Am Yisrael Chai, and because our national soul is the Shekhinah that dwells amongst us, the Shekhinah dwells amongst us, not amongst them. The Shekhinah is to the Jewish people as the soul is to the body. The Shekhinah is our national soul. Am Yisrael Chai, because we have Elokim Chayim in our midst. The other nations are like the statue, right? And then the Rambam actually uses that same mashal just to explain the difference between the Torah and all the wisdoms of the nations. Our Torah is like the living person, has a soul to it, because it has infinite depth, behind the black on white, the physical spelling out of the Torah. As we know, as we're engaged in Torah study, we know that the black and white is just the outer surface, and then behind is like infinite depth. There's a soul behind that black on white, and as opposed to the wisdom from the nations, it's just the black and white is all there is to it, like the statue. There's no soul in there. Right? But another difference is that Nebuchadnezzar sees his fellow evil empires, his empire with the other three, all as elements of one big statue in human form. So that's another amazing thing, right? That which we say that they also have a type of human form, not divine like ours, but as it were, call it the cutting edge of physicality. That makes it man as opposed to animal. They have that type of form, but it's a physical thing, right? It's a certain properties embedded in their matter, their physical matter. As per the statue, the main thing of the statue is what's it made out of, So you see a statue, he saw of gold on top and silver and of iron and of clay and of copper. The value of the statue is mainly what it's made out of, whether out of gold, out of silver, and the artistic form is secondary. At least that's what it used to be. Because by them the ikar is their matter, not their form. So that's one distinction that we have been harping on for the last few minutes. But then there's another distinction, that all the nations combined add up to one human form. Right? That statue represented all the evil empires. That's another difference. Even their humanoid form, not one nation has a whole humanoid form onto its own. It's when you put all of them together, they all add up to one pseudo-man. Between all of them together, all right? That's another amazing difference that we're going to talk about today, right? But before that, let's just finish the point, because I don't believe we read this last time. We're on page Yud Aleph in the standard print that most of us grew up on. But we're a few lines, right? We'll start from the second line. Now Daniel, when he sees the Malchus of Yisrael, which is which is going to be Melech HaMashiach b'mehera b'yameinu, so he sees a human form, right, as opposed to the four evil empires, sees them as animals, right? But even the human form, he sees the Tzelem Elokim. He says it's like in the clouds there was a form like a person. So it's clear it's in the clouds, it's heavenly. He's not even seeing the physical part of Klal Yisrael. He's seeing the pure Tzelem Elokim, which is what truly sets us apart. Okay, all he saw there was the Tzelem Elokim of Am Yisrael. So now, whereas Nebuchadnezzar, when he saw the evil empires, he sees ornately fashioned gold and silver in human form. But of course, the gold and silver is Iker, right? Right. The precious metals that the thing is made of is obviously the Iker to any art collector, right? And so the form is just saying which is imprinted on the gold and silver. It's not a divine form. It's a physical form imprinted on the gold and the silver. In which case, the tzura, just makes it pleasing to the eye, but it's not the ikar. The ikar is obviously the gold and the silver. All right, but now that which he saw, all four evil empires in the one humanoid person, it took all four of them to make up one pseudo-man, not even a real man, with a like Klaiso, Besod Atam Kurim Adam, with a Tzelem Elokim, that's Eloki, that's really divine. But it took all four together to get to their version of humanity, all four together. Kielda, Malchus, and Kabodal, Kochel Shem Bottom, these four empires make up like the four powers that compose a human being. One is bodily power, right? The power of the body, right? The muscles, The other one is the emotions, the drives that we call the spirit, the emotions, which include passions, right? That's koach of nefesh. Because afka kiu gamken hu keguf shel adam eno mutba koach begufo kamoshu koach shelifneze. Right. Now, this is also a power manifest in the body. It's not so imprinted in the body like the power of the muscles. Right. So it is a power infused in the body, even if it's not as bodily as physical strength. Right, of the muscles. Hagibu asechel shu nivdal garim in a guf kamoshu in asechel shu nivdal. Right. All right. So now the third level, the third koach, is the intellect. Now the intellect is actually, something beyond the body of a person. Right, because the reason why it's beyond the body, he means to say, is because with the intellect we could perceive things, or figure out things way beyond where the eyes see or the ears hear. Right? We can know things from about the stars and atoms and things that the physical senses can't even sense. We can know about these things. So obviously, it's a power that transcends the physical body, right? But nonetheless, it is a power that, even though it transcends the body, it's linked to the body. It's linked to the body, and not only that, it's what's dominant. What's dominant, right? The other powers are actually dominant, right? 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 So now, what drives a person? What drives a person? His intellect doesn't drive him. Very few people are driven by intellect. Generally, people who live totally in that zone are pretty cold, passionless, and not really driven. Right? Drive is more emphasized in the body and in the spirit. Probably more in the spirit than in the body. I believe we're about to learn, right? Because the body's pretty lazy, right? But still, you'll if you're hungry, you'll do something about it, right? If you're itching, you're uncomfortable physically, you'll do something about it, right? So the body has more drive than the intellect as far as getting things done, looking for things or running away from things. The intellect's not a main driver of the human being. It should be, but it isn't, right? And the passion is the main driver, right? And that's how these kingdoms are set up in the vision of Daniel, right? It goes by what is, the greatest driving force is what's mentioned first. Right? Your main driver is your spirit, passions. All types of passions. Love drives a person. Fear drives a person. Right? Ambition. Right? Seeking honor. Being a control freak. These are all things in the nefesh, in the spirit. That's all the. So the power of the spirit, which include all the emotions and passions. That's the number one driver of getting that causes a person to do stuff, right? And generally, why is he doing it? Generally, right? Right? Why does a person do stuff? Generally, it's because of some emotion that's driving him. The emotion, even more than some real physical need, that the bodily need, even more. Bodily need, you just eat enough to not be hungry. You don't have. It's not the body that has the that demands go out and become a millionaire, climb the corporate ladder, and the body just wants to eat what it needs and then rest, and just engage in other bodily pleasures, like to build a career, and or to, God forbid, take revenge. These are all in the soul. It's number one mover. So people say, I did it because, but they're generally making up the intellectual reason. Intellect doesn't drive people. Passion does. Right? Passion is the driver. All right, we actually spoke about this in our book on Bereshis and Parshas Bereshis. All right. Right. Right now, at least after your drives, your passions that are your main driver, then the next thing that would drive a person is his physical needs. You're hungry, you'll do something about it. You're in pain, you'll do something about it. Right? You're uncomfortable, you'll do something about it. Right? So these, your secondary driver is your body. The body when has to have its needs, fulfilled. So that drives a person, fulfill the needs of his body. So now, even though man's intellect is his glory, and everyone will admit to that, but it doesn't drive anybody, right? We enslave our intellect to figure out how to attain what our passions want us to attain. That's a sad situation of mankind. It's true until this day. Intellect ought to be what guides us and be what moves us. It's not. The intellect is enslaved to figure out ways for the passions to be satisfied and after that for the body to be satisfied. So even though the intellect is the most glorious aspect of man, it is not man's ruler. It's not man's driver. Right? So therefore, right? So now, the first kingdom, which was the kingdom of Nebuchadnezzar, which is the head of gold, right? So it's so therefore he's the first Malchus in the vision of Nebuchadnezzar, because Chashivas from himself, he also had the greatest. The Babylonian Empire was at least considered to be a more successful empire than the subsequent empires of Paras, Mada, and Yavan. It had the greatest importance and reign and control. Like Daniel told him, "Antu Malka Melch Machai, you're a king of all kings." Kakam Omar Gam Daniel B'Mara Sheni, Antu Roshadava, you Nebuchadnezzar, you are the head of gold. The Fikach Omar V'Gafedi Nesher La. Right, and now I also describe, in the vision of the animal that was in Daniel's own vision, of the animal that was parallel to Bavel. Right, it was a lion, right, with wings of eagles. Like the eagle flies the highest. As we explained, all goes against the forces of passion in a person. That is your most driving force that really controls you more than any of your other any of your other capacities that you have. The second kingdom is Madai. That's the power of the body. It's pure body. It's less, than the power of passion. Now the body is a taker. Now the body constantly needs to eat. The body needs to take to keep it going. It's got to breathe, it's got to take in air, it's got to take in food, and it's got to take in rest. It's got to just take to maintain itself. So it's called that the body is innately lacking. If it would be perfect, right, then it wouldn't need to eat, wouldn't need to drink to be maintained. The fact that it's high maintenance shows that it's inherently lacking. The second, the animal that was parallel to the second empire, which is Madai, which includes Paras, is it looked like a bear. A bear's got to keep on eating and eating and eating and eating and eating. So now it says in Gemara Kiddushin, fourth paragraph. And then came up another animal that looked like a bear. Tani Rav Yosef learned Elu Parsiim. It refers to the Persians. Parasumadai. Shochav Shosim Kadov. They eat and drink like bears. They're fat like bears. And they're hairy like bears. And they have no rest like bears have no rest. Pirushem Vakshiton Livlaw. Right? Just like so the Maharal explains, means like the bear has no rest, has to constantly be consuming. Kachu midasa. Right? That is their, that is their way. Kaksiv etzo malchus zeb Megillas Esther etzo ma'achresh masa oretz yom. Right? So now this explains, why Megillas Esther ended off with and Achashverosh taxed, all the earth and even the far away islands. Now, what's it coming to teach us? Of course, king's tax. You want to end off Megillas Esther with this message? And Achashverosh put a big tax. And he taxed, as much as he could. Does it sound familiar? Yeah. People who raise your taxes, right? Right? It's explaining. Megillas Esther wants to explain what we were really up against in the Golus Paras Umadai. We were up against, we were up against Haman, but Achashverosh was no friend of the Jews. He is a person that just wanted to eat and eat and eat and consume and consume and consume. Was not exactly a benevolent monarch. He is a big taker, big consumer. He always was seeking to increase his wealth. This was the essence of the second empire of Parsamadai, is take. And Daniel actually said about this second animal represents Parasumadai that looked like a bear. We say to this animal, "Come, eat much meat." And now that Gemara says in Megillah, Daf Yud from Rav, Achashverosh. Shakon Asrush, you have Rosh Bilashin Rashin. Everyone was made poor, and it says, sound familiar. He was raising everyone's taxes. He was just taking and taking from the hardworking citizens. And that's all because he wanted to take more and more and more just to fulfill, right? Fill his unceasing physical desire, bodily desire. Kashi ada Haman in Achashverosh, so Gam Shim Kol Yisrael about Kesef Zo in Koach Achashverosh. The Hashom Bole Yisrael, right? So now Haman knew this about Achashverosh. That's why he offered Achashverosh a fortune to buy the rights to kill the Jewish people, and he knew the king would go for it. The Aseret Salaf Kikar Kesef, which was supposedly a astronomical fortune by the money of that day. He knew Achashverosh would go for it, because Achashverosh loves money. He loves to take. And that's how Haman thought he could, buy the rights, buy the rights to swallow up Klai. So, Lo she'ein ani rotza kesef shecha, rak mekabelin mucha, chazan even noisin lach. Lo ase kesef shezev vadai, hello g'dagalo kavgaz let's am lariga b'shul kesef. Agagaz haya mekabel b'chozav and nasan a kesef elav kvar biarnu bim komo me'inyan zeh. And now look what Achashverosh did, because the money is given back to you, meaning Achashverosh indeed had shame. It does look very bad, it's bad optics to sell out a nation for extermination for money. Even Achashverosh was embarrassed and understood it really doesn't look good to sell out your citizen, your loyal citizens, a whole segment of your citizenry for extermination for money. But wait, he took the money and gave it back because he just loves money. He just couldn't say, keep your money, right? Rather, he took the money and then gave it back, for the optics. But he took it. He just had to have it. Just had to have the geschmack of having it, right? So as much as he was afraid of the bad optics of what selling out a nation, so what did he do? He took the money and gave it back instead of just saying, I don't want to hear about money. Took it and gave it back. Right? It's just so geschmack to have. Right? That's it. He just could not control that desire of taking, having, absorbing. So then he gave it back so he could play the benevolent guy. as if, he's donating to Haman's cause, but you have to take it and then give it back, as opposed to refuse it. You have to have the geschmack of having, right? All right. And he says, I explained what the Maharal spoke at great length in his book, or Chodesh HaPurim, on the pasuk Vaser Salav Kila. Means cloud, but now to sum it up. Kilin Machzah Shniya Shu Chafetz the Indian of the second evil empire of Parsimony is it's an empire that just wants to swallow. It's now the one afterwards, and now we're finally getting to Yavan. So he sees it like a tiger. Now the tiger, right, which is Yavan, is parallel to the third aspect of the human being, which is the intellect. Right, this nation, they excelled in wisdom and understanding. They had their philosophers, and the sciences. As we're going to explain, this nation was into wisdom. They sought wisdom. As is well known about the Greeks, and as we are further going to discuss in this book. Let's turn the page. Right. So we just turned the page, and we're going to stop in a second. So I'll just say, they're being in the mad pursuit of wisdom. Now, it happens to be that they were, we say in the integrated person, and the intellect is not the driving force, but as we said, and we're going to come back and say further in this book, that which we say that the goyim are humanoids, that's all of them combined make one pseudo man. So it happens to be that each one is just onto its own is like an animal. So another aspect of why Nebuchadnezzar saw it as a human. Not just he's speaking for his pleasure, but also only saw them together as a humanoid statue. Right? So, of course, each nation just has one exceptional force, right? And the Greeks, their exceptional force that drove them was wisdom. But it drove them, but they're not a whole person. And the whole person, the wisdom is, the intellect is not the main driver. But we said each nation onto its own is like an animal. Even Nebuchadnezzar saw them as human is only one because he saw them all together at the same time. So even from his perspective, he only sees them as a person, a whole person, but not even a living person, a statue, when they're all together. But of course, each one being a very partial aspect of a integrated human form, the partial aspect that's Greece, and therefore it's what drives them, onto their own, is the intellect. And that's what made them insanely jealous of the Torah, right? Because they knew that our Torah is greater than their secular knowledge, right? Because the Torah is divine knowledge. And they knew that they couldn't have the Torah. The Torah was only given to Judah. So they were jealous. They just want to be mevatel Torah. They wanted to annul Torah. Because they couldn't suffer the fact that real intellect, divine intellect, is by the Jewish people. They have human intellect. We have divine intellect, which makes human intellect look like nothing by comparison. So the divine intellect they couldn't have because they're not Jewish, right? They could not suffer that we have a level of intellect that they don't have. So that's why they were jealous, insanely jealous of our Torah. It's insanely jealous of the Torah. That's why they wanted to annul the Torah. We will stop here. Okay, everyone, enjoy the rest of your day. Kol tov.